So today we are going to do a little Q&A because I asked on my Instagram last time any questions, anything to discuss, so I can do a little Q&A of everything. I think it's nice. I like to do Q&As. I like to answer questions about training, bodybuilding, anything else, PEDs. Yeah, so I'm very open with that, and I think it's just nice to have little chats about these kind of topics and answer questions because, well, I always have questions about many things in life and I like getting answers. When I started my journey, I asked a lot of questions to people around and stuff to learn. I think that's just the best, to be honest, to like share your experience and learn from others. You can learn from anybody, and you have to be pretty open-minded because even the most random person can teach you something. So you should never like look down on people and think like, oh no, they're not the smartest, so I'm not going to listen to them. I'm not going to like listen to their advice. Every single person can teach you something or can bring a new way of seeing things that can help you then, well, get another point of view and change things accordingly for the best. So just a little intro, be open-minded, ask questions, and I'm not saying like apply everything that everybody tells you. Of course, you have to filter things and you have to know what's actually good advice and what's not so good advice. But I think that you should always be open and accept feedback and advice from people because some of them can be very valuable. So let's start and answer the questions. So the first one is about PEDs for women and how I manage it with like times, like durations and off-season and prep and stuff like that. So there are several questions in there. The first one is kind of short cycle versus long cycle. So a short cycle would be 6 to 8 weeks and a longer cycle 10 to 12 weeks for PED use for females specifically. And what I think is the best for like just productivity and get the best results. So, and minimize also, very, very important caveat, and minimize virilization because, well, as a female, well, most females want to stay females and feminine. So, of course, PEDs, androgens are androgenic and going to cause a degree of virilization. Every single woman is different. We all have, well, different receptors, different genes. So things are going to be different from one female to the other. So some women can have minimal virilization to pretty high dose, whereas some women can get virilization pretty quickly, pretty easily on low dose, and you never know how you're going to respond to those drugs without trying it. So this is why when you start using PEDs as a female, and especially androgenic anabolic steroids, you need to be very aware of, well, what can happen, the adverse effect, let's say the ones you don't want, the unwanted ones, but it's part of it. It's like, it's the whole thing. You can't just only want some effects and not get the others. When you take a drug that acts on so many receptors and so many tissue, you have to expect having some unwanted effects, but which are part of the whole effect of the drug. So yeah, you just have to be very, very aware of what you're doing and also how to do it the right way to minimize virilization because you can still manage to keep it as low as possible. It's going to happen again. You can't avoid it, but you can manage what you do in a way to diminish that as much as possible. So the idea behind trying to be, well, as muscular as possible, let's say, whilst staying feminine is trying to only use these androgens. So, for example, Masteron, Primo, Anavar, NPP, some girls do use it. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Anavar either. So I think like Masteron and Primo are the best bet for you, and to stay as feminine as possible whilst, of course, maximizing hypertrophy. But that's another topic. It's not the question. So when you use these drugs that are going to cause a degree of utilization, you have to use them when it is the most productive time for you to make the most of it. So that would be, of course, off-season. So anytime during off-season, you are maximizing hypertrophy because you're eating much more, you're training hard. Well, you should train hard all the time, but you train hard, you have the energy available to recover, to perform, to get stronger, to get bigger. It's just the best time to grow, of course. So it makes sense doing cycles only in off-season when you want to gain muscle mass and minimize virilization. The only situation where I would use like PEDs and do cycle with androgens would be prep. So of course the last weeks of prep, the last 5 to 6 weeks of prep, just to have the best look. And then that would also be potentially one in the middle of prep, just for like muscle retention, performance retention, and just get also like work towards the look. So prep is a different kind of like time period because of course it makes sense using PEDs in this case to enhance the look. But in off season, you should do most of your cycles in off season so you can actually maximize the effect of the cycle and get the most of it. So that makes more sense. Then short or long term, I've always done cycles. My maximum has been 9 weeks, but 90% of the time I stick to 8 weeks maximum, which is more like a short cycle. Why? Because they have done studies on women using Masteron and Primo. So these drugs were used for breast cancer. So they studied women taking it for breast cancer to see also and study the effect of the drug on the woman. And they started noticing more virilization after 6 weeks. So like the first 6 weeks, women didn't really have much virilization, and then after 6 it kind of starts increasing a fair amount. So the longest you stay on a cycle, like if you stay for more than 6 weeks, after 6 weeks the amount of virilization you can get from the cycle is going to be more and more important. And I think that's really mostly due to the fact that at this point your serum concentration is at a peak level. So with androgens, and because they are in oil and they are linked to some molecules like propionate or decanoate or enanthate, so because they are linked to these esters, then it will just dictate how they are metabolized in the body and at what point it reaches a peak serum concentration. So when you start injecting, and over the next first few weeks, the serum level slowly goes up and up and up till it reaches maximum level, and then it stays at the same level when you keep the dose the same, of course. But depending on the length of the ester, it can take more time to reach peak serum level. So if you take a propionate, you might reach peak serum in 3 to 4 weeks. Whereas when you take an enanthate or deca, it can be, of course, much longer, 6 weeks, for example. So it makes sense that the virilization happens more so after 6 weeks, because at this point you're at max level of serum concentration with these androgens, whereas the weeks before it was not that high. So that's, I think, just the main explanation behind it. instead of like just a magic number, like after 6 you have realization. I think it's just because of that. So yeah, to me it makes more sense keeping it a bit shorter, like maximum 8-9 weeks, potentially 10, but 10 is really like, I would never go above 10, to be honest. I think 10 weeks is a long time, and you can definitely have more side effects when you stay for longer. But it's also like not only the length, like duration of your cycle, but it's the dose. So you can do like a short cycle with a high dose or a long cycle with a low dose, but if the area under the curve is the same, so like if the total amount of like androgen, like milligram wise, when you calculate, time times dose, is the same, you'll have the same side effects. So that is also very important. It's not only about the duration of your cycle, it's also about the dose. So they are both linked together, and they both matter for the side effects you'll get from it. So yeah, that's the main thing here to consider. I think like with longer cycle, you expose yourself to more side effects, but also depend on how you respond. Like for example, I usually go for 8 weeks because I know myself and I know how my body is, and I know that I'm usually fine with 8 weeks. And like this last cycle, for example, I pushed to 9 weeks because I had no side effects whatsoever. I had nothing, like no visualization, my voice didn't drop or whatever, nothing that I could, pick on, that could like just tell me that, I'm visualizing now. I was absolutely fine for 8 weeks. So I was like, okay, I feel confident and I'm happy to push for another week because so far I have no side effects, so I'm happy with that. So it's what I did. But if not, if you start noticing some side effects, and if something you're not happy about, you just have to stop it there. But at the same time, you have to be aware that it's going to happen, and you never know like how your body responds to every single drug. And like some drugs are going to be different, like Masteron versus Primo. Maybe some girls are better with Primo, some are better with Masteron, some are better with Anavar. So you also have to try different things and see what actually works for you. And that's the main thing here. Like there is no cookie cutter program or protocol or whatever. You have to try and test things for yourself and see what works the best. But yeah, I think like a longer cycle, definitely play with fire a bit more. So this is why even end of prep, like some girls like prep for, 16 weeks, and they are on androgens for 16 weeks. And I think that's completely insane. Like you should not do that if you want to stay feminine. So even on prep, I think it makes sense to do cycle, of course, at the end to enhance the look. But I would not go for more, because if you start the 6 weeks before your first show, and then your season is going to be maximum a month or maximum like a month and a half. So it would be about 8 weeks on a cycle, which is a normal length for a cycle. And end of prep, you should always use a lower dose. Like you don't have to use the high dose that you use in a peak off season, because you're not trying to gain muscle at the end of prep, especially not the last 6 weeks. The goal is only retain muscle mass and enhance the look. So to do this too, you don't have to go crazy with the amount of PD you use. You can go for a much lower dose and you're going to retain muscle mass and you're going to look better. You don't have to use a high dose like in off season when you try to push hypertrophy. So you have to adjust things also accordingly, depending on the phase you're in. But even on prep, I would not go for more than, 9 weeks. Big maximum 10, but depends on how you are and how you respond. I've never been above 10. For myself, I think my maximum was 9. I went for 10 weeks with a client. But again, it was always like every single week we were like, do you have any side effects? Have you noticed anything? Like voice, hair, like anything that you can notice that is starting to dip on the visualization side. So we were like checking every week together and be like, are you happy to push for another week or not? You know, like it's not something that you should set. You have to really adjust it according to your own body and your response. So that's for the length of the cycle. I think both are, again, length is not only length, it's also length, like duration of cycle and dose you're using. But I think like if you want to stay feminine and prevent virilization, you have to go for a bit shorter cycle. So maximum, I would say big maximum 10 weeks. But I usually go for 8 weeks. And then, so the other question was the breaks in between cycle, how I deal with that, if I drop my calories to maintenance to avoid gaining fat, or if I stay the same with that, and how long that would be. So between cycles, I keep minimum the length of a cycle. So if I did a cycle for 8 weeks, I'll do 8 weeks minimum off, and then do another cycle after. Depends on the timeline, depends on your duration for the off season, and then when you want to start prep and stuff like that. So it depends on your timeline, but I would always go for a minimum of the length of your cycle. So if you do 10-week cycle, do 10 weeks off. And ideally you would like to, because during a cycle with androgens, you lose your menstrual cycle, so your periods usually are gone. So you want to get your cycle back, your menstrual cycle back, before going for another cycle with androgens, just to make sure that sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, LH, FSH, are at a good level, and it helps, of course, staying feminine. So yeah, I would advise that, and for the food and training and everything, just keep it the same. Your physique is going to look very different, so when you stop during a cycle, you look very, very full, you look kind of dry, you see more details, you look sharper. But then when you stop a cycle, even though things are exactly the same, like nutrition, training, everything is the same, but you stop a cycle, you just look so much flatter, and you look kind of like skinny fat compared to your physique on a cycle. But that's just normal. It's just less water retention in the muscles, and yeah, you just look a bit flat and fat. But it's just because you don't have the androgens anymore. But I would not change my diet. I would keep diet the same. I would keep training the same. Everything is the same. It's just like you keep pushing, you keep growing anyway. It doesn't matter if you're on or off. Of course, when you're on, it will boost your progression. But when you're off, it doesn't change what makes you grow. So when you're off season, and in this question, it's about off season. When you're in off season, in between your cycle, you still want to grow. You still want to gain muscle mass. You still want to get stronger. So you still need the food to perform, and the food is it's your only anabolic at this point, isn't it? It's the only anabolic that you can use. It's food. It's food. Food and sleep are anabolic. So you have to make sure that you fuel your body to be able to progress. So you should not drop the calories back. Just keep them the same and just do the same thing when you're off cycle. Food is anabolic, and you have to use it to progress and get better. So it doesn't matter if you look a bit worse. You're always going to look worse when you're off compared to when you're on. But it doesn't matter. Off season is to grow muscle. It's not to look the best. Right. So question number 2: any advice on mastering RDLs? Technically, really difficult for me. So for RDLs, the main thing you want is focus on your hip movement. So don't think about the bar. Don't think about like just going up and down. What you want is think about your hips and bringing your hips back as much as possible, and then back in normal position. So you only have to think about your hips, because for RDL, it's more of a glutes and hamstring movement. So it's more like 50-50 glutes, hamstrings. Whereas, for example, for stiff leg deadlifts, that would be more so hamstrings, like 70% hamstrings, then 30% glutes. So for RDL, because it's such a glute movement, I mostly think about my hips. For a stiff leg, I would think more about keeping my legs straight and feeling a stretch in my hamstrings. So, well, because there's a stiff leg, you need to keep your legs straight, as stiff as possible, and stretching your hamstrings. But yeah, for RDL, because there is a bigger like glute component in the movement, I really think only about how I move my hips. So think like as you had a rope just around your waist and somebody behind you just pull on that rope. So it's really like your hip going backwards as much as possible. So think hip back, hips back, hips back, hips back. So hips in the back and then you go back to your initial position. So only focus on that and keep the bar or the dumbbells close to your legs. So when you go down, you just slide the bar along your legs all the way. So with that, you keep your center of gravity more like toward the back, and it puts more tension on your glutes, rather than if your center of gravity is more toward the front, it would put more tension on your spinal erectors, which is not the goal. So keep the bar or the dumbbell very close to your leg. Let it slide down your legs. So keep the bar always against your legs, and then just think about your hip movement. So toward the back as much as possible, and go back to normal. So think hips back, hips back. That's what really works for me and my clients. So yeah, for RDL, think about your hips movement. That's a game changer, and that's how you use your glutes and your hamstrings the best way possible to make the most of it. Another question is, what's your favorite clothes store? Where do you buy all your clothes? So I'm not really a fashionista, as you can, I think, probably notice. So I don't like spending a lot of money on clothes. I think it's just not a good way of using your money. At least not for me, because I'm not into fashion. I think like if fashion is something you absolutely love, it makes sense spending money in something you love. But I don't really love fashion. So I don't really care. I want to spend a lot of money in clothes and stuff. So like, for example, this t-shirt comes from Shein. So it's like, well, I think I paid like £4 for that t-shirt. And then I just wear like joggings and stuff. My jeans are from Fit Jeans because they are elastic. So it means I can fit my muscular body, and petite because I'm very small. I'm 5'2". So also finding trousers or pants that work for me is hard because I'm so small. So on Fit Jeans, you can get jeans that are pretty elastic. So it fits very well when you have a bit more muscle mass compared to like normal jeans and whatever. So my jeans are from Fit Jeans. If not, it's joggings, whatever kind of athlete and stuff websites. This one was on Honor Active shop. But yeah, usually t-shirts, I don't want to pay a lot for a t-shirt. I'm like, yeah, Shein is definitely my best bet. If not, the thing is, like, I'm not going out a lot. Like, my life is literally going to work. So I'm wearing vet scrubs. So I'm not even wearing normal clothes. I'm wearing like full-on vet scrubs. I'm going to the gym and then I'm going home, walking my dog or whatever. So I'm not like going out to party and stuff. So I don't really need any other outfits, to be honest. So I'm just keeping it very, very basic for my t-shirts and like casual things. I'm not spending a lot of money on that. On gym clothes, I used to love leggings from Muscle Nation, but they don't do the model of legging I really liked. They stopped it. So I'm really struggling to find, I need your help actually on that, because I'm really struggling to find leggings that I really like and that fit me very well. I feel like usually the waistband is too low on the glutes and it looks horrible. Like it just like smash your glutes and it just look all tiny and I don't like it. So I'm really struggling to find good leggings that stay nicely on your leg, that you don't have to pull up all the time, because that's also so annoying. So leggings that fit you very well but also look good on you, like don't give you a camel toe, don't give you a small squeeze bum. Like I want a legging that looks good and feel good, which is not see-through. Like there are so many things to think about leggings, and yeah, I'm really looking around and I'm struggling to find the perfect legging. It's always something that is off for me. So if you have very good recommendation for legging that feel good, are not see-through, look good, enhance your body, let's say, make your booty look good, make your legs look good and stuff like that, without giving you a camel toe, I would love to know what you buy, because I want that. And I'm not, like it's hard because you can't try them. You have to buy them online. So if they don't fit, I just can't be bothered sending them back. So I usually keep them and then I'm like, I'm never wearing them because I don't like them. So it's always hit or miss, and I hate being like, okay, I'm going to spend 50 quid on a pair of leggings and in the end they don't fit me the way I want them to fit me. So yeah, if you have recommendations for leggings, I'm taking it. I'm interested, so please share. And for all the tops, I have a lot of Better Bodies or Gasp ones, because I like oversized tees. If I'm not shredded, I would never wear anything like fitting or very revealing at the gym. It's only when I'm like properly shredded that I'm comfortable doing it. If not, no way. I'm just not, I feel awful. I feel very self-conscious and stuff. So I would never wear anything that is like very fitting or very revealing, like a sports bra or whatever. So I'm 99% of the time wearing oversized t-shirts. So most of them are again from Gas, Better Bodies, but I also have a lot of t-shirts from Dark Sports. I really like this brand. They look really nice. The designs and stuff are very nice, and the quality, like the t-shirt quality, is really good. And I like also how they fit. So yeah, I love Dark Sports. The only downside is it's a US brand, so of course you have to pay like duty charge and custom charge on it. You have way to bypass it, but it's just a bit annoying. So that's another downside. But I love this brand. So yeah, that's about the clothes. But again, I'm not really fashionista. Would you like to have children one day if you meet the right person? I'm not saying no, because maybe like if I indeed meet the right person, I'd be like, yes, I want a kid with you. But right now, do I want a kid? Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. No. I've never been interested in having kids. Again, it might change. I know people that were like that when they were single or in the wrong relationship, but then change their mind when they found the right person. So I'm not saying I would never have kids. I might, but so far, absolutely not something I'm considering. I'm not thinking about it. I don't want kids. But again, I'm not saying never. I think it really depends on the context. But definitely, I'm not seeing myself with a kid for the next 5 years. I'm still relatively young, like I'm 28. I started working almost 3 years ago. So I'm still very early on in my career. And I feel like, yeah, I'm not in the right place and mind to get kids. So no, definitely not soon. Potentially one day, I'm not saying absolutely never, but it's definitely not in my plans. Another question, always TRT based for women? Yes. Yes. If you use androgens like Masteron, Primo, Anavar, anything like that, you need to have a test base because these drugs are going to drop your natural testosterone because it's a feedback loop. Your body is going to, well, feel the androgens in your blood. So then it goes to your brain saying, we don't need to produce any more hormones because we already have enough. So then it's going to shut down your natural testosterone production. So you're going to end up with zero tests whilst you're taking androgens. But also don't forget that testosterone, especially in women, is converted into estrogen, and it's kind of like it's a relevant amount of estrogen. So it's good to have some testosterone in to get also that estrogen from it and not being so low in testosterone. So yes, when you take androgens, you need to have a test base to keep normal testosterone level because your natural ones are going to be dropped by the androgens. So that to keep a normal testosterone level and at the same time keep some good amount of estrogen because again estrogen is converted from testosterone. So yeah, double benefit for that. For absolutely yes, always a test base for women, TRT of course. I would never go above TRT, so never go above like any kind of physiological level. Like as a female, you should never go above 1 nanogram per milliliter. Because above that you're definitely supraphysiological, so then you risk a lot more virilization side effects. So yeah, ideally TRT to stay in between 0.5 to 1 nanogram per milliliter testosterone concentration in your blood. So yeah, always and TRT only, not more than TRT. So the last question is actually pretty funny. It's you're kind of mean, but in a good way. So that made me laugh because many friends are telling me that I'm a man hater, and it's not completely wrong. I think with years and experience, first of all, I built my life the way I want it to be. So I'm really happy in my life and I have everything I want. Like I'm doing the job I've always wanted to be, like, be a vet. So yeah, I'm doing the job I want. I have my own house, which is really nice. I live where I want to live because of the gym, and I chose the gym where I want to go and then just found a house and a job around. So I literally built my life the way I want it to be. And I'm a very independent person. I've always been, and I'm used to live on my own. I lived abroad. I left France when I was 19. Well, I left my parents' home when I was 17. And then at 19, I left from France to Romania, lived in Romania for 6 years, then came to the UK. So I'm very independent and I'm happy, especially here. Like I literally built the life I wanted to have, So I'm very happy in my own life and with my own company. So I would not just let any random guy enter my life and disrupt my peace. Like you're not competing with other men. You're competing with my own happiness and how I built my life and how settled I am. So you have to be worth more than that. If I let you enter my life, it's because I see you as something special that adds into what I already have and elevates, my life and how I feel. So I'm really selective, let's say, with partners, and I'm happy single. I'm happy single, so I don't need a man. I absolutely don't need a man. So this is why I'm like, if I see red flags or if you act in a way that is absolutely not okay, you're out. You're absolutely out. And I'm also very direct. I communicate things very directly. I'm very like straightforward. So I will tell you how I feel about you, and I will tell you how I feel about things you do and your actions. So I'm not going to like sugarcoat. If you do good things, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be like, oh, thank you, I really appreciate it, or stuff like that. But yeah, I'm very on it with communication, and I'm very straightforward and direct. So I guess I'm not afraid of telling men off. When they act like twats, they are going to know about it because I'm going to tell them straight to their face. I'm not going to text. I'm going to go to them and tell them straight to their face. I'm not scared of that. I'm doing it on a daily basis because I'm very secure. Like, I know what I want, I know what I don't want, I know what I like, I know what I don't like, and I'm going to communicate it to you. So if you act like a twat, again, it's your own fault if you get told off. If you act like a good, respectable person, then you'll be absolutely fine and you'll get praise on that. I'm going to be very happy and tell you like, you're a great person, I appreciate you for that, thank you so much, you're doing really well. I'm going to be there for you. But yeah, it makes me laugh because I'm just having so many bad experiences with men. Like, I had so many weird like situationships and talking stages and stuff lately, and I'm like, oh my god, just fucking give me a break. And I'm telling my friends about these stories, and they're literally laughing at me because I'm like, what the fuck is going on with men nowadays? Like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm telling these men off. I'm telling them off, and I'm cutting them out and stuff, and it makes my friends laugh at least. I'm entertaining them, but yeah, I'm kind of mean when you do things that are not okay because I'm going to tell you. So it's not being mean, it's telling you the truth, and exposing facts. If you think that's mean, then you have to like maybe think about your own self and change your behavior. But I'm actually a good person, and when I like somebody, I really like them and I'm there for them and I'm very supportive, I'm very loyal, I'm very invested, I'm putting in a lot of effort. So if I like you, I'm going to really like you, which is also really hard for me because I ended up in a weird situation where we could not go to the next step, like a relationship, for any kind of reason. But when I like somebody and when I develop feeling for somebody, I'm getting very quickly attached to them, and then I'm really struggling to let it go because I'm kind of this all or nothing person. So like, it's either I like you a lot and then I'm going to like you a ton, and then it's very hard for me to back off and get out of it. But if I'm not having feelings for you, then it's very easy for me to be like, you misbehave once, you're out. You're out forever. So yeah, I think it's really important to know your worth, kinda, and know what you want, and be happy enough in yourself and in your life not to allow any kind of random person to just disrupt your peace. Because the thing is, it's not cool to be in a shit relationship. It's not cool to be in a relationship where you're not happy, you're not fulfilled. You have. I think it's just so nice when you're with the right person, but yeah, I could be in a relationship with a random guy, But you know, like if I want to be in a relationship, I can be in a relationship. That's not an issue. I have many guys in my DM that would love a relationship with me, obviously with what they write. But I don't want that because they are not the right person for me. So I'm not just going to be in a relationship just to be in a relationship. Unfortunately, many people do. Like many people are scared to be alone, and many people prefer to stay comfortable in shit relationships or in like just casual relationship, and just are comfortable because there is no effort to put in and there is no commitment to put in. So they just stay comfortable, but it's just a very low level, unfulfilling relationship. So I don't want that for myself. I prefer to stay alone and be single. And yes, sometimes you feel lonely. Sometimes you would like to have somebody with you by your side and stuff, but I want the right person. You know, like not just a random person. I want the right person in my life, and I want a very fulfilling relationship. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a, ma puce? Hein? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? So yeah, I think that's enough for today. It was a pretty long Q&A, but it was an interesting question. So I hope it was entertaining for you. And I'll see you very soon in another video.